J&M Tackle, the foremost saltwater outfitter here on the Gulf Coast. Carson Hall with me as usual, and we're talking swordfish. We're going to break down the nighttime, we're going to break down the daytime, and I promise you we'll share some stuff with you that'll make you more successful. All right, Carson, where do we want to go? Do we want to start the nighttime and kind of like that's kind of old school and then go to the daytime?
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, let's start with the rod, and this can really be converted to a Winthrop butt or something a little bit more suited for a...
Yeah, nighttime, you definitely don't need an electric because you're only dropping down a couple hundred feet, 200 to 500 generally. Usually what you want on your daytime or nighttime setup is wind-on leaders work great because you're going to go through a lot of baits between sharks and one's getting torn up.
And I tell you, it allows you to fish a shorter like bait leader, like, you know, 3 to 5 foot.
Right.
Because you don't have to have a bunch.
Easy to manage and keep in your cooler or your bait box,
And, honestly, if we're attaching this sort of light, you're attaching it to 220, 300-pound wind-on. You're not chafing up your main line. It just makes it for an easy setup. And
where your serving is on that wind-on is a great spot to clip your long line clip for your light. They don't slide around. They hold real well.
Yep. So let's just pretend we got and I'll say this. For the nighttime, I like a slightly smaller hook. This is a 7691 Nino. Just the fish tend to be a little bit smaller, and we're really fishing squid with the bait rigged more towards the top of the mantle than down towards the tentacles. And the reason you want to do that is, especially when you're fishing a hook this size, is when the hook's way down there, you have a tendency for the bait to pile down into the bend of the hook, and you just ain't gonna hook nothing if you do that. So, all right, let's kind of go from, we got the bait, then we go to the wind on, then your light, right?
Right.
Then
you're gonna, figure out your
band. Well, I guess, how do you do it? I like the rubber band. Some people use rigging cable.
I use a rubber band also, and most of the time your bank sinkers, it's hard to get the rubber band to go through the eye. I just cat's paw it around the top of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just go around that neck right there and cinch it down. Of course, I broke that rubber band, but it's so much easier than going through the eye.
Oh, so what I do is I take a little piece of floss.
I've done this same
and then
thing.
just pull it back through.
A rigging needle, copper wire. I've done
just
the same
pull it back
thing.
Through.
But then I had another captain show me that one day, and I was like, circuit breaker just tripped in my head.
You just tripped one in my head.
Yeah.
And so for me, I like this about 30, 50 feet above the light. You don't want the light in between your weight and your hook, because you're going to come down like this, and this is going to create a V, and it's going to make a big giant tangly mess. So let's talk about it. We got the bait set out. What's that look like in terms of where we're going to set them out, moon phase and stuff like that. So as we're talking moon phase with nighttime sword fishing, the brighter the moon, the deeper the bite's going to be. And the reason for that is more light penetration deep. The plankton that come up from the bottom to kind of feed at night don't come as far to the surface. And that kicks the food chain off down deeper. What I find is on near full moon night, most of your bites are in that 250 to 500 range on just a typical setup. If it's a bright moon, I'm probably fishing one at 400, one at 300, and one at 200. And we're going to stagger them up and down in the water column, and we're going to stagger them away from the boat. And to do that, we need balloons and we need light sticks. And basically, you're going to blow that balloon up, pop that light stick in there. I like green light sticks. They just shine way brighter than any of the other ones at night, especially in a white balloon.
And tell them how you like to stagger your baits out as far as doing your long one or your shallow or deeper one first or last.
So I like my furthest out one also to be my deepest bait.
I agree.
Because like your boat's usually going to have light associated with it. And if you have a balloon here and a balloon here and a tip rod, and I just like 3 rods, you can fish more, but it's hard to clear all that stuff while you're fishing. So if you're gonna do it and really be accurate, what you want to do is you probably want 2 or 3 of these in your boat, because I'm not gonna lie, they just don't last long, and then
They don't float.
they don't float. You drop them, put a little rubber band on them is what I do, and make everybody rubber band them to their wrists. And for some reason, they just quit working. They get salt in them, and you'll want a second one. So what you'll do, if you're going to set your, on a full moon night, or let's just say a 50-50 moon, you're going to start at 300, 200, and 100. Then you're going to set that first bait at 300 feet. You're going to tie your balloon on, and you're going to just set that out as far as you want from your boat. I like a pretty good little stretch. What you got to think is these fish have big eyes, and if there's 500 feet separating these baits, it's not like that fish can't see bait number 1 and bait number 2. He's going to see them both, trust me. So you want them for separated from the boat and down. Then your next bait, if you're going to go 200, you're going to go 200. You're going to fish that one on a balloon. And then the last one's called your tip rod, and that's just fishing straight below your boat. And I like that one at 100 or whatever my shallow bait is for the night. On a no moon night, you can basically fish 200, 150, and then on full boat, near full moon night, 400, 300, or 400, 300, 200, and in between 300, 200, 100. Like, that's kind of good thought process as far as fishing. And I can tell you this, on the backside of a full moon, save your time, save your gas. I ain't never caught one on the backside of a full moon. It just don't happen. The best time to me is the 5 to 3 days leading up. On the backside, don't even do it. And really, to me, when you look at it, fishing summertime versus fall, in the summer, you want to be in deeper water altogether, because sharks just become an issue. So I really like the spur and that area in the summertime. As we kind of roll into fall, the steps, the elbow area, up on that shelf, there's just more bait in there, and the sharks aren't quite as bad in the fall as they are in the summer. So that's your nighttime. And honestly, anything from a 30 Tiagra to a 50 to this, fish are probably going to average between 50, 200 pounds, 200 pounder being a bigger one. Every once in a while, you're going to get a good one.
Right.
All right, so that's the nighttime. Carson, break down the daytime for us.
Again, we're going to do a wind-on leader. Depending on your current, where you're fishing at, kind of dictates length and size. Up here in the Gulf, where we don't have as much current, I tend to lean towards a heavier leader over a lighter leader, because I feel like it catches the current more to keep my bait up and not sinking down into the mud.
I like that thought process.
And I don't run a full 150 feet. I'm usually doing somewhere between 75 and 100.
I agree with you. You don't need 150. Like, I'm going to put those lights. I don't put them that far from my bait. I don't find that makes a big a difference.
And I put multiple ones along it.
And so here on this, Carson likes the discos. I like the green. I just catch more fish on green. And I will say this. On the nighttime, I like to break the colors up, because the fish swim up to the surface. And if you got a green on one, a disco on one, and a blue on one, and you see your light swimming by your boat, you know which rod to go to.
Right. I do like that. I just like the flashing one, multicolor, because
kind of gets
little squid, when they communicate, they change and pulse and light up and dim out, and I feel like that's kind of more imitating a natural selection, different communication.
And then I either like a 10-0 or 11-0, 7691. This is the stainless steel model. Just the fish tend to be bigger, and your baits tend to be a little bit bigger in the way you rig your bait. And we're not going to go into bait rigging, because there's 100 ways to do it, and you can go to YouTube, and everybody's got a good bait rigging video out there.
Yeah.
So here again, you got a long wind on, no need for no need for a really long leader when you have a long wind on.
I do about 6. I normally pull off 6 feet of full arm length,
Yep.
And that's how I cut my leaders.
So we're going to go to that. We're going to string both of these on our wind on, and we're going to rubber band them in place.
Yep.
I like one about 15 feet from my hook, another one about 30. And the reason you want two is just in case one gives out. And the thing about these just being directly onto your leader and rubber band in place is when you get them to your rod tip, you just reel through and that rubber band pops. You can get a really light rubber band. If you got a friend that's an orthodontist, those little orthodontic rubber bands are freaking money. Do y'all sell those?
We sell them too.
Oh man, so yeah, J&M has the orthodontic rubber bands. That's really what's perfect for this setup. And then you're gonna go up from that. For me, I like my main fishing weight about 100 foot up, 75 to 100 foot. Kind of, if I have a 75-foot wind on, it's kind of towards the top. I like that bait being way out there,
I agree,
riding in the current.
Yeah, I don't want the bait too close, or the weight too close to the bait. And we all know when the fish eats, he's coming up, and you don't want that weight too close to the hook because it's just going to make him pull the hook.
No, I agree. So, you know, you're going to fish anywhere from a 3 to 5 pound weight. And look, there's two ways. Carson, go over the two ways to deploy these baits.
The main two ways is either using a sacrificial lead, in which case you'll take some sort of weight, concrete, whatever you can get your hands on that's dense and you can be disposable, and just bend like a coat hanger over into the shape of a hook. Put it over your hook or your bait and slowly ease it down until you get tension on your rod. And then you're going to free spool it down until you get to the top of your leader. And then you'll clip on a lighter, like a 3 pound weight, to the top of your wind on. And then you're going to send that down. And when it hits the bottom, your weight's going to fall loose of your hook. And now you're at the depth where you want to be.
So the way that's going to look is, if this was your sacrificial weight, you know, some people will take a small hook and just cut it off here, and you'll go hook to hook. So you have tension, and you'll kind of feed it out, like Carson said. And once it starts going, this isn't going to come off until it hits the bottom. You're going to get slack, and now you're fishing. This is the quickest way to deploy directly right onto a specific spot. The problem is that you got to go to Lowe's or Home Depot, cut some rebar. I tell you what I like the best is they make these little, probably 18 inches electric fence kind of deals. They're black. They're meant to run wire through them. Duct tape 3 of those together. It's a perfect sacrificial weight. Tape your hook. Tape a piece of clothes hanger to it, bent over. And that's a great sacrificial weight. You can put it in your bucket. You got this on the upper end. And so, I mean, what are we doing here? We got it.
And then the other way is to troll your bait out. In which case you'll bump the boat in gear, put your bait out, start letting your leader go. And when you get to your loop at the top of your wind on, I use, between 5 to 7 pounds of lead and long line clip it to that loop. And then while the boat's still in gear and moving, you're free spooling and watching your how much line you're letting out. And when you get close to the depth that you want to be at, you slow the boat down and you lock the reel up, and then you start kind of slowly bumping the boat in reverse or stopping yourself, and it all scopes down and slowly sinks underneath you so that your long leader doesn't get tangled up around your main line. Yeah,
and so the other thing is, if you're going to deploy one bait, it's kind of hard to deploy a buoy rod.
Right.
And so this way is a really good way to deploy 2 baits. And so some people fish a buoy rod. I personally don't fish the buoy rod. What I find is that I can reel, here again, I go back to my line counter. I reel one bait 50 foot up off the bottom. And then the second bait, I'm looking at something. I'm either looking to find a thermocline somewhere in the water column. If you got a big hump, sometimes you got a lot of current down there on the bottom. And you can see the current blowing off the steep side of a ledge. And that actually, you'll see the thermocline and bait right in there. So, if you see that at 180 or 400, I'll reel my second bait into that thermocline, and you'll be surprised the amount of bites that you get in that thermocline area. If you're just, and so, when you have one at 50 foot off the bottom and one at 200 foot off the bottom, if I don't see a thermocline, I just reel at 200 foot off the bottom. I can fish both rods off my bow and just hold into the current. Very rarely do I get tangled, and I can see the bites happening. Yeah, and it's a lot easier than dealing with the buoy rod. But I will tell you, Tim Klein, who doesn't post on Facebook anymore, is a swordfish killing machine. And I fished with him, and he fishes one rod. And what he does, he fishes a 3-pound weight usually, just because we don't have the current. And he is bumping the boat in gear. So as you're bumping the boat in gear, you're scoping up, and you're fishing kind of a little bit higher into the water column, and then he'll turn around and he'll bump it back forward. So you're kind of covering the spot back and forth, yo-yoing your bait up and down in the water column.
Like that.
Dude catches a ton of fish, fished with them, just watched it. It's simplicity, it's efficiency, and it's just a great way to catch fish. Look, so we're talking about drag pressure. I guess everybody has an opinion on it. Me personally, at night, I'm fishing everything at 12 pounds. They're either swimming up or they're pulling out. I feel like I'm going to hook them either way.
Yeah, 12 pounds on the bite, I think, is plenty to get the hook set. And once I feel like they're good and hooked up, I'll push it up to 24 or so to make sure the hook's good and it's going to hold, and then I'll back it back off to about 16 to 20 and fight the fish in there.
I like that. If that goes too long,
yeah, you can always
bump up. What you're going to find is, especially, well, a lot of times these fish are going to hook themselves. Like, I see a lot of guys on the bite, they're cranking into the bait. I tell you, Rodney Rod Holder has hooked more fish for me than any other way. They're either swimming down and they're hooking themselves, or they're swimming up and dragging 3 to 5 pounds of lead.
Plus all the resistance of the line, and on a good sharp hook, that's going to find its way.
That's all you need. I mean, if we stretched out 1,000 feet, 1,200 foot of line here, and you got on one end and I got on the other, I probably couldn't pull the line hard enough for you to feel it with no water,
right,
on 1,200 foot away. And that's just, that's just the fact of it. So all this harking and jerking that you hear people do, or cranking real hard in the fish, it really, to me, doesn't do anything.
I'll reel in till it's pull and drag, to get my line tight, but I'm not going try and keep going after that.
So one thing you're going to notice a lot on the daytime fishing is you're going to get a lot of bill fish that are going to whack and swing at the bait, not bite it. Look, those fish, I'm not going to lie, you want to tease them, reel it up 15 feet and stop it. Like, a lot of times, swordfish are vindictive fish. They like to just beat stuff, just not even to kill it, not even to eat it, but just to kill it.
Right.
So sometimes pulling it away and stopping it, pulling it away 50 feet and stopping it, it just entices that bite.
I'm a very firm believer in that. And usually what I do is I pull it away a couple of times, and on the third time, I free spool it and drop it and force them to make a decision. I do the same thing cobia fishing and stuff.
I agree. And what I found is, like, a lot of times, like, you ever feel like you drop one and you get that bite instantly, like you just dropped it on their head? I totally think what's happening is we've passed the fish on the way down. He's come down. As soon as the bait's available, he's on it. So you just got to kind of think these are aggressive fish, and they're going to follow that bait and try to attack it. I hope this is helpful, because it is hard to cover all this in like a very short amount of time. Right. But here's the deal. If you want swordfish advice, get up with this guy. He can break down all the tackle, get you completely set up, from LPs on custom rods to Talicas on just the perfect daytime or nighttime setup. If you need real estate advice, hit me up. Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection. You can get me through a DM, 251-279-0099, or Angelo at thecoastalconnection.com. Keep the trash out the splash. Keep a few fish, and kids. I see a lot of people keeping 3-4 fish in a trip. Man, I tell you, one of these things feed a lot of people. Letting them go is pretty cool. We'll catch you on the flip side.